The coffee shop where Sarah and I first met seemed smaller now, its warm ambience doing nothing to thaw the ice that had formed around my heart over the past year. I sat in our old corner booth, the leather cracked and worn, wondering why I'd agreed to this meeting. My ex-wife's text had been brief. "Please, Adam, just 30 minutes. There's something you need to know." 30 minutes. That's all she was asking for. I'd given her 8 years of marriage, countless promises, and a future I'd spent years building in my mind. What was 30 more minutes? The bell above the door chimed, and there she was. Sarah looked different, thinner. Her auburn hair shorter than I remembered. Shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. She wore the blue cardigan I'd bought her for our 5th anniversary, and something twisted painfully in my chest. "Thank you for coming," she said softly, sliding into the seat across from me. Her hands trembled slightly as she wrapped them around the water glass the waitress had left. I kept my voice neutral, distant. "You said there was something I needed to know." "I'm listening." Sarah's eyes, those green eyes that used to light up when she saw me, were filled with something I couldn't quite name. Fear? Regret? I don't know how to start this. How about with why? The bitterness leaked through despite my best efforts. "Why you threw away everything we had for him?" She flinched. "I deserved that." "You deserve a lot more than that." I started to stand. "If this is just about apologizing, save it. I've moved on." "Do you still keep my letters?" The question stopped me cold, half risen from my seat. Of all the things I'd expected her to say, that wasn't even on the list. I slowly sat back down. "What?" "The letters I wrote you during our first year together before we got married. Do you still have them?" I stared at her, confused and angry. "That's why you wanted to meet? To ask about some old letters?" "Please, Adam, just answer the question." I thought about the box in my closet, the one I'd packed away the day our divorce was finalized. Inside were the remnants of our life together, photos, ticket stubs, and yes, her letters. 63 of them, written during the 6 months she'd spent studying abroad in Paris. I'd read them so many times I'd memorized passages. "Why does it matter?" "Because if you still have them, I need you to read them again. Really read them, especially the ones from March." Her voice broke. "Please, Adam, there's something in those letters that will explain everything." "Explain what?" "How you fell into bed with your colleague. How you looked me in the eye every morning for 3 months while you were having an affair. The wounds were supposed to be healed, but apparently, they'd just been waiting for her to reappear to tear open again." Sarah's composure cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I know how it looked. I know what you thought happened. But you don't know the whole truth." "Then tell me now." "I can't. Not yet. Not until you read the letters." She reached across the table, her hand stopping just short of mine. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to get back together. I'm just asking you to read the letters. Pay attention to what I wrote about my mother, about the genetic testing she made me do." "Genetic testing?" I had no memory of any genetic testing. "Sarah, what are you talking about?" "March 15th. I wrote you about it. I wrote you about everything." She stood, her chair scraping against the floor. "I have stage 3 cancer, Adam. The same type that killed my mother. I have 6 months, maybe less." The world tilted. I gripped the table's edge, my knuckles white. "What?" "Read the letters. Then, if you want to understand why I did what I did, call me." She placed a card with her number on the table. "I don't have much time left, and I need you to know the truth before I go. I need you to understand that everything I did, all of it, was because I loved you too much to let you watch me die." She walked away, leaving me sitting in that coffee shop, my mind reeling, my heart pounding, and 30 questions for every answer she'd given me. I sat in my apartment that night, the box on my coffee table like Pandora's container of secrets. My hands hadn't stopped shaking since I left the coffee shop. Cancer. 6 months. The words kept echoing in my mind, drowning out the anger I'd carefully cultivated over the past year. I'd spent 12 months hating Sarah for what she'd done. I'd spent 12 months trying to understand how the woman who used to leave notes in my lunch bag could betray me so completely. And now she was telling me it was all because she was dying? No, I wouldn't let her rewrite our history with some tragic revelation. I needed facts, not emotional manipulation. I opened the box. The letters were exactly as I'd left them, bound with the red ribbon Sarah had tied around them on my birthday. Her handwriting covered the envelopes, each one addressed to my Adam, with little hearts dotting the I's. God, we'd been so young, so stupidly in love. I found the letters from March and began to read. March 3rd. My dearest Adam, Paris is beautiful, but I miss you more than words can express. Something strange happened today. My mother called, crying. Her sister, Aunt Catherine, remember her from the wedding, was just diagnosed with ovarian cancer. It's the same kind that took my grandmother. Mom is terrified. She's making me promise to get genetic testing done when I get home. She says the BRCA gene runs in our family. I told her she's worrying for nothing, but her fear was real, Adam. Scared me. I set the letter down. I didn't remember this. Why didn't I remember this? March 7th, I went to a clinic here in Paris. They can do the genetic testing faster than back home. Mom sent me money to have it done. I should get results in 2 weeks. I'm probably overthinking this, but what if I carry the gene? What if I end up like Grandma? I keep thinking about our plans. The house we want to buy. The 3 kids you insist we'll have. I'm still negotiating for 2. Growing old together on some porch swing. What if genetics has other plans? My throat tightened. I picked up the next letter with trembling fingers. March 15th. The results came back. I'm BRCA1 positive. The doctor says I have an 87% chance of developing breast cancer and 44% chance of ovarian cancer in my lifetime. 87%. Adam. Those aren't odds, that's practically a guarantee. They recommend preventive surgery, constant monitoring, and they advised me to have children soon if I want them, before the prophylactic procedures. I'm 23 years old, and I'm looking at a future of hospitals and surgeries and fear. I haven't told Mom yet. I haven't told anyone. I'm going to tell you everything when I get home. We'll face this together, like we face everything. I dropped the letter. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the paper. I grabbed my phone and searched for the text messages from that time. March 2019. I found them. Her. Got some medical news today. We should talk when I call tonight. Me. Is everything okay? Her. We'll talk tonight. Love you. But there was no call logged that night. Instead, the next message was from her the following day. Her. Never mind about last night. Everything's fine. Just homesick. Can't wait to see you next month. Red heart. Why had she changed her mind? Why hadn't she told me? I tore through the remaining letters. April's letters were cheerful, talking about her classes and the places she'd visited. May's letters were full of excitement about coming home. There was no mention of the genetic testing, the cancer risk, or her fears. It was as if March 15th had never happened. I spent the next hour searching through old emails, looking for medical bills or doctor's appointments. Nothing. If she'd had the testing done, she'd hidden it perfectly. But why? My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Marcus. Saw Sarah at City General today. Didn't know she was back in town. She okay? She looked rough, man. City General. The cancer center. I looked at the card Sarah had left. Her number written in that same looping handwriting. My finger hovered over the screen. Part of me wanted to call immediately to demand answers. But another part, the part that had loved her completely, was afraid of what those answers might be. Instead, I kept reading. I went back to the beginning, to our first letter. Dear Adam, I've been in Paris for 3 days, and I already miss you desperately. Remember what you told me at the airport? You said, if you're going to leave me for a Frenchman, at least make sure he has a better beard than me. I laughed, but I wanted to tell you something then and didn't have the courage. I'll never leave you, Adam. Not for a Frenchman, not for anyone. You're it for me. You're my forever person. I know we're young, and people will say we can't possibly know what forever means yet, but I do. Forever means you. I read those words 3 times, my vision blurring. If she'd meant them, if she'd really believed them, then why the affair? Why Marcus's friend from her office? Why the hotel receipts I'd found? The text messages, the lipstick on his collar that day I'd confronted him. None of it made sense. Unless she'd been pushing me away on purpose. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I did what I should have done a year ago. I investigated. Not with anger and hurt clouding my judgment, but with the analytical mind that had made me a successful financial analyst. I treated our marriage like a case study, looking for patterns and anomalies. The affair had started 3 years ago, according to the evidence I'd found. Sarah had grown distant around the same time. She'd stopped talking about having children, despite our plans. She'd started working longer hours. She'd pulled away from me slowly, so gradually that I hadn't noticed until the distance between us was a chasm. I pulled up our joint calendar from that period. Doctor's appointments. So many doctor's appointments, all marked as personal with no details. I'd assumed they were routine checkups. I'd never asked because I trusted her. I searched her name along with genetic testing and BRCA. The results were overwhelming. Articles about preventive surgeries, cancer risks, emotional toll on families, relationship strain. One article's headline caught my eye. Why some women keep their BRCA status secret from partners. I clicked it. The article described women who'd received positive BRCA results and chose not to tell their partners, fearing they'd be seen as damaged goods, or that their partners would stay out of obligation rather than love. Some described pushing partners away, believing it was kinder than watching them sign up for a lifetime of medical crises. My coffee had gone cold. The sun was rising outside my window, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that Sarah had always loved. I called in sick to work and drove to my mother's house. Mom opened the door in her bathrobe, surprised. Adam? The 7 in the morning. What's wrong? Did you know about Sarah's genetic testing? Her face changed, confirmation written in the subtle tightening around her eyes. Oh, sweetheart. She told you? She told me yesterday. But I need to know what you knew. When did you know? Mom ushered me inside, poured coffee I didn't want, and sat me down at her kitchen table. The same table where I told her about the divorce, where she'd held me while I cried. She called me about 6 months before your divorce, Mom said quietly. She was crying, said she needed advice but made me promise not to tell you. She'd been diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer, the aggressive type. The doctors wanted to start treatment immediately, surgery, chemotherapy, radiation. The room spun. 6 months before? She had cancer for 6 months and didn't tell me? She was terrified, Adam. Terrified of the cancer, terrified of losing you, terrified of becoming a burden. She kept saying she wouldn't let you sacrifice your life to take care of a sick wife. Wouldn't let you watch her die like she'd watched her mother deteriorate. That wasn't her choice to make. I stood, pacing. I was her husband, in sickness and in health. Those weren't just words. I told her that. I begged her to tell you. But she'd made up her mind. Mom's voice cracked. She asked me what I would do if I could save your father from years of pain by leaving him. I told her I'd never leave him, but she said that's exactly why she had to leave you, because you'd never leave her. I sank back into the chair. The affair. It wasn't real, was it? Mom shook her head. David was her cousin's husband. He'd been through cancer with his first wife. She passed away 5 years ago. Sarah asked him to help her push you away. The affair was staged. The hotel receipts were for his company's events she helped him with. The text messages were deliberately ambiguous. Even that day you caught them. David told me later that Sarah had called you to come to his office specifically. She orchestrated her own cheating scandal? The audacity of it, the calculated nature of it, should have made me angrier. Instead, I felt something else. Awe at how far she'd gone to protect me from pain. She believed you'd move on, find someone healthy, have the life you'd planned. She thought the anger would help you let go faster than grief would. She was wrong. I put my head in my hands. God, Mom. She was so wrong. The anger didn't make it easier, it made it worse. At least with grief, I could have held onto the good memories. Instead, I spent a year hating her, questioning everything we'd ever had. I know, sweetheart. And she knows too. That's probably why she reached out now. She said 6 months. Stage 3. Mom wiped her eyes. The cancer came back. Metastasized. She went through treatment and it worked for a while. But these things, sometimes they don't stay gone. I thought about Sarah in that coffee shop. The blue cardigan hanging off her thinner frame. The shadows under her eyes. I'd been so focused on my hurt that I'd barely looked at her. Really looked at her. I need to see her. Adam, before you do, think about what you want from this. Are you looking for closure? Understanding? Because you need to be clear about your intentions. She's dying, and she doesn't need. I need to see my wife, Mom. Your ex-wife. No. I stood, certainty flooding through me for the first time in a year. You don't stop loving someone just because they make a catastrophically stupid decision to protect you. You don't stop being married just because some papers say so. She's been fighting alone for 3 years, and I'm done letting her. I called Sarah from the car. She answered on the first ring, her voice hesitant. Adam, I read the letters. I talked to my mother. I need to see you. Now. Silence stretched between us, filled with 1,000 unspoken words. Finally, I'm at Riverside Park, the bench where you proposed. Of course she was. Sarah had always been sentimental like that. I found her 20 minutes later, sitting on our bench overlooking the water. She'd brought bread for the ducks, though she wasn't throwing any. She was just holding the bag, staring at the river like it held answers to questions she was afraid to ask. I didn't bring enough bread that day, I said, sitting beside her. Do you remember? You kept saying the ducks were judging us for being cheap, and I had to run back to the car for the emergency snacks I kept in the glove compartment. Sarah smiled, though tears tracked down her cheeks. You proposed with goldfish crackers and a ring pop because the real ring was being resized. It was perfect. It was chaos. You deserved better. I deserved you. I got you. That was better than anything I could have imagined. She finally looked at me, and I saw the weight she'd been carrying. Not just the illness, but the guilt, the loneliness, the unbearable burden of her choice. You read the letters. All of them. Then I talked to Mom. Then I called David, who told me I was an idiot for not seeing through your terrible acting. He said, and I quote, your wife staged the worst affair in history. You two couldn't even be convincing as cheaters. A laugh burst from her, surprised and genuine. We really were terrible at it. I kept wanting to apologize every time I sent you those awful texts. Why didn't you? The question I'd been holding back finally escaped. Sarah, why didn't you just tell me the truth? Did you really think I'd leave you if you were sick? No. She turned to face me fully. I knew you wouldn't leave. That was the problem. I knew you'd stay and sacrifice, and watch me get sicker, and blame yourself for not being able to fix it. I knew you'd put your life on hold. No more talk of starting the business you dreamed about. No more weekend hiking trips. No more spontaneous adventures. Everything would become about my cancer, my treatment, my needs. That's what marriage means. No, Adam. Marriage means being partners. What I was facing, what I'm still facing, it would have made you a caregiver, not a husband. I watched my father become a shell of himself taking care of my mother. I watched the light go out of his eyes day by day. I watched him forget how to laugh, how to live, how to be anything except someone tending to a dying woman. So you decided for both of us. I made the only choice I could live with, or die with, as it turned out. She tried to smile, but it fractured. I thought if you hated me, you'd move on. Find someone healthy. Have those 3 kids we argued about. Build that dream house with the wraparound porch. I wanted you to have the life we'd planned, even if I couldn't be in it. I took her hand. It was cold, thinner than I remembered, but still fit perfectly in mine. You want to know what happened after our divorce? I threw myself into work. I bought a condo I hate because it's nothing like the house we wanted. I went on exactly 3 dates that Marcus forced me to go on, and I couldn't make it through coffee because none of them were you. I didn't move on, Sarah. I just stopped living. Adam, I'm not finished. You thought you were saving me from pain, but all you did was change the shape of it. Instead of facing cancer together, I spent a year grieving a marriage I thought was a lie, questioning every memory, wondering if you'd ever loved me at all. Instead of being there for you during treatment, I was burning your pictures and trying to hate you enough to stop hurting. Sarah was crying openly now. I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought the anger would be cleaner than grief. There's nothing clean about any of this. I pulled her closer, and she came without resistance, her head finding the spot on my shoulder that had always been hers. But I understand why you did it. And I hate that I understand, because it means I know how much you loved me. We sat like that for a long time, the ducks paddling hopefully nearby, the sun climbing higher, the world continuing around us while ours stood still. What happens now? Sarah finally asked, her voice muffled against my coat. Now you tell me everything. The diagnosis, the timeline, the treatment options. Everything you should have told me 3 years ago. There's not much to tell. Stage 3 metastatic breast cancer. It's in my bones now, my liver. I've done chemo, radiation, surgery, all of it. I was in remission for 8 months, but it came back worse. The doctors are talking about clinical trials, but mostly they're talking about making me comfortable. How long? 6 months, maybe less. She pulled back to look at me. I didn't come back to burden you with this. I came back because I needed you to know the truth before I died. I needed you to understand that I loved you, love you, more than anything. That pushing you away was the hardest thing I've ever done. And now that I know, now you can move on for real. You can remember us the way we were and not hate me anymore. I cupped her face in my hands, forcing her to meet my eyes. Sarah Elizabeth Crawford Morrison, you are the most brilliant and most infuriating woman I've ever known. You orchestrated an entire fake affair because you loved me too much. You pushed me away to save me from pain. You've been fighting cancer alone because you didn't want to burden me. Adam. And I'm not going anywhere. Not this time. Sarah tried to protest. She listed a dozen reasons why I should walk away. The medical bills, the hard days ahead, the inevitability of loss. I listened to every argument, then took her home to my hated condo and made her tea while she sat on my couch, looking small and tired and so achingly familiar. You can't just decide to do this, she said, wrapping her hands around the mug. This isn't some romantic gesture, Adam. This is feeding tubes and hospital stays and watching me forget who I am when the pain gets bad. I know. I sat beside her. I've spent the last 24 hours reading everything I can about metastatic breast cancer. I know what's coming. I know it won't be easy or pretty or anything like a movie. Then why? Because 8 years ago, I stood in front of everyone we loved and promised to be there in sickness and in health. You didn't release me from those vows, Sarah. You just stopped letting me keep them. I took her hand. I'm not asking to fix this or cure you or pretend we can have our old life back. I'm asking to be here, however you need me, for however long we have. She set down the tea with shaking hands. I can't ask that of you. You're not asking. I'm telling you. And before you argue, know that I've already called your oncologist, Dr. Patterson, right? She confirmed your appointments for next week, and I've cleared my schedule to go with you. You called my doctor? She looked stunned. Your mother gave me the information. She's been your primary contact, and she agrees it's time I stepped back in. I pulled out my phone, showing her the calendar I'd already started filling. I've got your next 3 appointments marked, plus notes on your current medication schedule. I called David too, apologized for the things I said to him during the divorce. He laughed and said it was about time I figured it out. Sarah stared at me, tears streaming down her face. You're serious? Completely. Now, I have some conditions. I counted on my fingers. 1, no more lying. About pain levels, symptoms, how you're feeling. I need complete honesty. 2, you move in here. This condo is terrible, but it's close to the hospital, and I'm not letting you go through this alone in your apartment. 3, we do this your way. If you want aggressive treatment, we fight. If you want to focus on quality of life, we do that. But we make these decisions together. Adam, I'm dying. I know. And I'm sorry, so sorry that I can't fix that. But I can make sure you don't die alone. I can make sure the time you have left is filled with love instead of isolation. I can make sure you remember that you were cherished. My voice broke. Sarah, please, let me love you through this. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing. I held her while she cried, all the fear and pain and loneliness of the past 3 years pouring out. When the storm finally passed, she pulled back, wiping her eyes. I don't deserve you. You deserve everything I can give and more. I kissed her forehead. So what do you say? Will you let me be your husband again? Not on paper, we can worry about the legal stuff later if we want. But in every way that matters. Sarah looked at me for a long moment, searching my face. Whatever she found there must have been enough, because she finally nodded. Okay, yes, but on one condition of my own. Anything. No regrets. When I'm gone, I don't want you looking back on this time with sadness. I want you to remember the good parts, the laughter, the love, the moments we steal from this illness. Promise me that. I promise to try. That's all I can ask. The next 6 months weren't easy. Sarah moved into my condo, and we transformed it from a space I'd hated into a home we loved. We painted the bedroom the soft blue she preferred. We hung pictures from our marriage, the good memories I'd boxed away. We created new memories too. On good days, we took short walks in the park, fed the ducks, and talked about everything and nothing. On bad days, I held her through the pain, read to her when she couldn't sleep, and learned to find joy in simple moments. Her laugh at a stupid joke, the feel of her hand in mine, the way she still hummed while making tea. I went to every doctor's appointment, learned medical terminology I never wanted to know, and advocated fiercely for her comfort and care. I met the support group she'd been attending, other young women fighting the same battle, some winning, some losing. They welcomed me with understanding smiles and shared their own stories of love and loss. Sarah's mother visited weekly, and I saw the relief in her eyes that Sarah wasn't alone anymore. Marcus brought takeout and terrible movies. David and his new wife came for quiet dinners. We built a community around Sarah's illness, refusing to let it steal everything. In month 4, Sarah had a good week, the best since her return. We drove to the beach, our beach where we'd spent our honeymoon. She walked along the shore, her hand in mine, the wind lifting her scarf. I want you to know something, she said, stopping to face the water. These past months with you, they've been worth everything. All the fear, all the pain, all of it was worth it to have this time with you. Sarah, let me finish. She smiled, and for a moment, I saw the young woman who'd written me love letters from Paris. I was wrong to push you away. I was wrong to think I was protecting you. All I did was rob us of time we could have had together. I don't regret many things in my life, Adam, but I'll always regret that. Then let's not waste any more time on regrets. I pulled her close. Let's just be here right now together. We stayed at the beach until sunset, watching the sky turn colors that seemed impossibly beautiful. Sarah fell asleep on the drive home, her head on my shoulder, peaceful in a way I hadn't seen in months. Sarah passed away on a Tuesday morning in early spring, 3 weeks shy of the 6-month prediction. I was holding her hand, reading her favorite book, a collection of poetry we discovered together in college. She opened her eyes as I reached the last stanza of her favorite poem, squeezed my hand 3 times, our private code for I love you, and smiled. Thank you, she whispered, for giving me the ending I should have had. Thank you for coming back, for letting me love you. Always, she said, and then, so softly I almost missed it, my forever person. She closed her eyes, her breathing slowed, and she slipped away while I held her, reading poetry about love that transcends time. It's been 2 years since Sarah died. I still live in the condo, though I've redecorated it again. I started the business I dreamed about, a financial consulting firm that helps families navigate the costs of serious illness. I volunteer at the Cancer Center, supporting other spouses and partners through their journeys. I keep Sarah's letters in a frame on my desk, the pages from March open where I can see them. They remind me of the woman who loved me enough to let me go, and the lesson I learned from losing her twice. That love isn't about protecting someone from pain. It's about choosing to face that pain together. People ask if I regret those last 6 months, if watching her decline was too hard. I tell them what I told Sarah I'd tell them. I remember the good parts. Her laughter when I burned dinner. The way she still beat me at Scrabble even on morphine. The morning she felt well enough to dance in the kitchen to our wedding song. The peace in her eyes, knowing she wasn't alone. Would I change things if I could? I'd have insisted she tell me the truth from the beginning. I'd have been there for every treatment, every scare, every moment. But I can't change the past, and I don't regret the ending we got. Because in those final months, Sarah taught me something profound. That love isn't measured in years but in moments. That being present for someone's worst days is a privilege, not a burden. That sometimes the greatest act of love is letting someone love you back. Even when, especially when, things are hard. I still visit her grave every week, bringing fresh flowers and telling her about my day. I tell her about the families I've helped, the lives touched by the foundation I started in her name. I tell her that I'm okay, that I'm living the way she wanted me to, fully, completely, without regrets. And sometimes, when the wind blows just right, I swear I can hear her voice telling me she's proud, that she loves me, that I was her forever person too. Because that's the thing about true love, it doesn't end when someone dies. It transforms, evolves, becomes something that lives in memory and action and the way we choose to honor those we've lost. Sarah was wrong about one thing. Pushing me away didn't save me from pain. But coming back, letting me in, giving us those final months together, that saved us both. And in the end, that was worth everything.